To this week's astrology. And like every week in astrology, this is a big week. And I think that's just because, like the nature of the cosmos is that everything is unique. That in any given week or any given year, there are unusual patterns in the stars we haven't seen before. And so I almost wonder if actually what would be most frightening in astrology is if we saw the same thing twice. So just know that when we say it's different, every week is different. Just as that feels within the body, that every moment is different, that every week is different, that every situation is slightly different. So this week, we're really getting into the energy of June's astrology. And if you follow any other astrologers, there's a lot of talk about how big June is in both Vedic as well as Western, because this week is going to mark Saturn moving even closer to Neptune. So they'll be within 2 degrees of each other. So we're really going to start to feel what these two are doing in Pisces. And why this is so important, we'll really feel on Friday, which is the 13th. I love that. Why this is so important is, Saturn is the lord of karma, and Neptune is what's the collective unconscious. It's the liminal realm, it's our ancestry, it's our roots, it's our past lives, it's the things we can't physically, tangibly touch in this world. And so when Saturn and Neptune meet, a couple of things happen. Like, we're not going to get the full meeting until next year in February. That's when they'll meet perfectly. But in this period between Friday and the 23rd of August, they're going to be hovering over the Venus star point, or where Venus met the sun in March the 23rd this year. So it's a very fragile, sensitive point in the chart. And it will set off energy that we were dealing with at a collective around our belief system, around spirituality, around the rights of religions, around the role of religious leaders, around even our understanding of the spiritual community, what's spiritual and what's not spiritual. It can almost feel like a little bit of a crisis of faith. And you can find that themes that you were working through in March, particularly around the 23rd, come up again to be resolved, or there's like a similar pattern that comes up again to be resolved, or at least to be understood at another level with Saturn and Neptune. Just pay attention. There'll be a lot that comes up, and there's always a lot in the collective level, but pay attention to themes around spirituality, around ancestry, around the role of religion, the rights of religion, the way in which religious leaders are increasingly standing up um, for the rights of other people. And there's a karmic play that can be happening internally, very much around ancestry. And that's probably a good thing to focus on this week, is the remembrance we're all connected. We have the experience of being in a separate body, of even being separated from God, however you want to understand God, be that like Jesus, Allah, Yahweh, the goddess, um, nature, Mother Nature. There's kind of this experience of being separate from God. And yet, at a personal level, this meeting of Neptune and Saturn can push us, can constrict us in such a way that we come to really land and understand that God is within. And that can fundamentally shift the energy in a collective. It can fundamentally shift then the way we understand religion, the way we might give our power away to even spiritual leaders in kind of communities like outside of dogmatic religion. It brings incredible empowerment. At the same time, Neptune and Saturn can also bring up a lot of ancestral energy, and this is also where connection comes. We think of ourselves as separate, but if we step back a couple of generations, we're related to hundreds of people. And then we go back even further and it's thousands. And to think that we are separate, or to think that someone is not your family, is absurd, because we are all family in that big family tree. And so Saturn with Neptune can allow us to see the way we're connected to people we never ever thought we would be. It can also help us work through ancestral vasanas because we all hold the trauma of our ancestry. And it's believed that's 7 generations back, and that's spoken about in epigenetics as well. So if you know that your family has been through war, through famine, um, through trauma, through genocide, which we will have all experienced at some point within our family lineage, this can also be an opportunity to understand that, to understand the collective trauma or the personal trauma that lives within the ancestral lineage that you come from, how that then plays out at a collective level, and how might what you're seeing in the collective be a reflection of something that you somewhere, some way back have actually experienced within your lineage. So pay attention to that. I'm going to talk more about Saturn and Neptune next year. But really listen and feel what this conjunction is for you. Like I said, it's going to be on the Venus star point, which is where Venus and the Sun met on the 21st of March, and that's a sensitive point. It's still really sensitive in the cosmos. So when these two, they'll be kind of like within a degree of the Venus star point. So there can be a lot that pops up in the collective, a lot that comes out from the shadow, a lot that's been hidden or repressed that gets to finally be seen. And that can include your own personal stories, which is a nice transition to then talking about the full moon this week, which is going to be on the 11th of June. It's a full moon in Scorpio in sidereal astrology. So if you looked at the night sky, this full moon is going to be sitting between the heart of Scorpio and the foot of Ophiuchus, which is the constellation next to it, in a nakshatra called Jyeshtha. Now, Jyeshtha is about going into the shadow. It is really a moon. It can be really big. It's calling for you to see the parts of yourself that you've sacrificed, that you've never been acknowledged for by other people. And that might be because you've raised a child by yourself, because you've given a lot of life away in the process of going after your career, where you've given a lot of money maybe and never towards your family or towards friends or community, and it's never been understood what you've given. So just knowing that can bring up a lot of that energy, and there's the opportunity to transmute that. So instead of sitting on it and thinking about maybe how hardly done by you are or how things should have been different, it's really understanding that there was wisdom that came from that experience. And like Michael Singer says, and I firmly believe this, we're richer for every experience we have. Even the tough ones, they're often the most richest experiences we can have for our own development. Now, if you want to learn more about where that moon is showing up in your chart, check out the full moon in Scorpio ritual and reading, which includes a reading for your chart. There's details below. I'll quickly mention, you might notice with the full moon as well that you feel it most strongly not on Wednesday, the 11th, but actually kind of the evening of Wednesday through to Thursday. That's because the moon will be Gandanta. It's still carrying the energy of the full moon, but it's hitting a point which is a karmic knot. So even if you feel like you've got resolution with the full moon, there can be a sense of tension, like there's something more to purge, there's something more to let out. There can be a lot of emotion that comes up with that. So just, know that. Now, underpinning all of that, the sun today is entering Mrigashira. Now, Mrigashira is a lunar mansion. It sits in Taurus, and it is all about searching. It kind of sits across Taurus and Gemini. It's all about searching. And so you can find this week, yes, there's all of this complex collective energy. There's a lot coming to light. And underneath that, you can find that you're in this mode of curiosity, like wanting to learn, wanting to understand. It's a really great time. So the sun will be in Mrigashira from the 8th today until the 22nd of June. It's a really great time to collect information, to tune in, to follow curiosity, to follow what's of interest to you, to learn something new. So you can find that that energy is really brewing for you this week. I'm also going to quickly mention that along with Saturn kind of moving into those 2-degree conjunction with Neptune on Friday. It's also going to be square Jupiter and the Sun until the end of June. So there's going to be quite a bit of tension. So almost like that energy of looking and searching and wanting to know more. You can also find there's some fear around that. Like, or what if I discover something about myself that I'm not quite sure about? What if I learn something I don't know how to deal with? And one of the things we can do in energy like that is we can ask for the courage and the wisdom to work with whatever we discover, to work with whatever comes up. So that's this week's astrology. I hope you have a wonderful full moon week and wonderful energy with this Saturn Neptune conjunction.